At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another session of Focus on Liberia on the Marketplace. I am your co-host, Gabriel Carter. Today, I am in the studio with Jimmy Eastman, and who's actually been my co-host for the last probably month or so. Alex is back with us, who's been a co-host with us here. So today we're going to be talking about the election, the economics of elections. There are several things that are currently taking place right now in Liberia. We're going to talk about the warning from the U.S. State Department, what it actually means. We're going to talk about the incident in Lofa. We're also going to take it further to look at the economy post the elections, right? Yes, I understand your concern that this election hasn't been about policies, and I would absolutely agree with you. It's been about the crowd, who can pull the biggest crowd. But we want to kind of look at it from a projection standpoint in terms of, if such and such candidate wins, what the economy is going to look like. So today, that's what we have. Hold on one second. I think we have other things we would like to cover here as well. You guys can keep me honest here if I'm correct, if I'm wrong. So we're also going to look at the impact of the campaign on the local businesses in Liberia, because we're currently in the midst of the campaign season, even though it's almost over. So that's what we have for you today. And please, wherever you are, take your time, share, and invite your friends. Bring comments, your concern, perspective as well, and hopefully we'll have time to dive into that. Guys, welcome back. Alex, welcome back, and Jimmy, thank you for holding us down with where all these guys been. These guys been gone for quite a while, so welcome.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, and thank you, Jimmy, for stepping in, man. I was away for a little bit on FMLA after my surgery shoulder. I was away for 3 months, my friend. So I'm back in gear at work and everything. And man, I'm busy to my throat. My first week back, I'm busy to my throat. But let's move on.
Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see you back, Alex. It's always good for you to be back in the saddle. And then, what you bring to the table is something irreplaceable. So it's good. And there's a lot of things to talk about now that the elections are on. We probably have a lot to discuss here today. So I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. So without further ado, I think let's just jump right into it. So I think what we wanted to open up with is, what we call tabata, right? And it's you can look at it as such, but you can look at it as tabata, but there's some kind of reality component to it. The possibility of election rigging. And the reason why we're actually talking about that, again, we're not a political show, so please don't. So this is why we're not going to dwell on that, because there's been rumor about the possibility of the election being rigged. Several parties have made several comments about that, and which we will also talk about later on subsequent to those comments, there's also been a warning from the U.S. State Department. But let's talk about the possibility of the campaign being rigged. Why do you think people are concerned that that is going to happen, even though the previous election it didn't happen? The last two elections there hasn't been no rigging. At least the last two administration there hasn't been any rigging. Why are people concerned that this could be a possibility? Any of you?
Go ahead, Alex. You just get back. You got a fresh start.
Okay, yeah. So there is this whole it's a profound fear. It's not just a what you call it suspicion or whatever, but it's a profound fear that based on the fact that the ruling establishment had made certain utterances, and there is also the issue. The suspicion is there too. And then the way the election commission is going about, for example, if you come back to the ruling party has this number about, they have this statistic that there's going to win on the first ballot, and counter statistic prove otherwise. So what is this thing that you're depending on? And then also we know back in the day what happened with the censor. Right, when the census was conducted, the manner in which the census was conducted, the activities surrounding that, the whole noise surrounding the census, the possibility of the establishment using the census as a means to inflate census numbers in counties which are supposed to be, the ruling establishment stronghold, like mostly in the southeast, inflating those numbers, but a lot of efforts were made to thwart that, and then as a result, there was electoral district repositioning and stuff like that was not done. Now we come to the election; these things are here. Like one of the things that has been suspected is election roll paddling, right? Where they would tamper with the election roll. Election roll has been a problem. And to say that, let me correct you, sir, to say that there's not been these things. Yes, in the 2005 election, CDC craft file, even though the file was not, sufficient to rise to the occasion that the election was rigged. In 2011, the same thing happened. In 2017, you know that Bromskin, the late Bromskin, so may his peace be to the artists, and other parties, including Unity Party, joined Benin and Uri's party. They went to court to challenge the result. But again, the things that happened were not sufficient enough to overturn the result. You know that the second round of the election was delayed by a month. So these things is already happening. But this one in 2023 is elevated because voter roll has been a problem. ECOWAS have sent technical people. The international community have sent technical people to fix this thing. So for the election commission to delay the issuance of the final voter roll has been questioned. It points to the fact that maybe, and the composition of the entire election commission, the head of the commission have been very in her utterances and stuff like that, talking down on opposition and stuff like that. So, and there's this saying about a past relationship between she and on the powers that be. So all these things are things that make people afraid to the extent that they delayed this. And even though they've issued it as a result of the United Party filing a complaint at the Supreme Court, they issued it, but they did not issue that of Moserado County. And it was found that even on Moserado County's voter roll, there were 10,000 names which were placed there, which were not supposed to be placed there. So now they are using the time to clean that roll up. So all these things at this last minute, it points that the Election Commission wanted to provide a voter roll when they said September 19 was the deadline. They wanted to give it 1 or 2 days to the election so that opposition parties will not have the time to peruse the document. There's also the suspicion about voter suppression, right? So that they have the chance to infiltrate whatever numbers or whatever voter. There's this whole thing about them buying voter cards and stuff like that, so they can be able to infiltrate. Then there also the issue of intimidation, intimidating voters vis-a-vis what happened. This is a classic example of what happened in Lofa County: voter intimidation, intimidating political leaders, and also intimidating the independent press. We all know that the establishment has a whole cartel of press people that they're dishing out money to, that we've heard allegedly, but the independent press, and you will note that if you read the U.S. statement, some of these things are stated clearly in the U.S. statement. So therefore, that means that the U.S. government itself have important information to suggest that somebody is planning to rig the election, right? Especially given what happened in Sierra Leone, right? Given what happened in Sierra Leone and the fact that they acted late. So, and also the fact that the U.S. government has requested the Liberian government to allow them to post I wouldn't call it inspector, how do you call it? Observers.
Yeah.
Almost all the polling centers. That tells you something. If the U.S. wants to put 10,000, as I heard, 10,000 observer in almost all the polling stations, that tells you something.
Yeah.
10,000.
Larry, Jimmy, I have a lot to say, but I'll let you come in.
That's the figure I heard. I don't know how true that.
Yeah.
No, I'm eager to listen at this point. Go ahead.
No, I and Alex, thank you for giving a kind of a very detailed analysis of what is what those speculations are. I have like two sides of the coin. I'm on two sides of the coin. So if you ask me right now, I can say head or tails. In one token, I understand why those in the opposition will want, there's speculations are coming about. The voter roll hasn't been released. I think, like you said, they released it, but it left out Monserrado County. You also pointed out that, there were names on there that needs to be cleared out. So we have every right to do that. You also pointed out the relationship of the commissioner, the net commissioner, with the president. He actually, supposedly, I think he appointed her, right? And you guys can keep me honest here. So he appointed her, right? So the relationship is there, right? The relationship is there to. And other thing, I think one thing you didn't probably left out was that the whole one round. They keep saying they want to go one round. So if you also, there's also the speculation that the campaign is not, the NEC is not properly funded, right? If you're not properly funded, that means if you were to go to the second round, you won't have enough resources to conduct the second round, which supposedly, from what we're hearing also as well, is that that's the reason why they want to win in the first round to do the one round, so they don't have to go to the second round because they don't have enough resources to go to the second round. Now, on the opposition side as well, well, not on the opposition side, on the ruling party side as well, one of the things I think we kind of have an amnesia with our own history, maybe because we don't retain it very well. Yes, the U.S. government did issue warning in terms of what they said will happen if will be anybody rig the election. But we know what happened when an election was actually rigged in those favor, right? If you guys know, you remember your history correctly, they were counted behind closed doors with no opposition in there. This is not me just saying it. This is history. It's in your history.
Gabriel, I know that I voted in the election.
Right. There was no opposition. Can you imagine going to the second round? You say, "Oh, allow these international community to come do to monitor it," but then they take it behind closed door, no opposition. It came out the what do you call it? The ruling party won, which was Doe, and that's because they had interest of him staying in power. Now,
who had interest?
U.S. had interest of him staying in power. They wanted him there, despite every atrocity that he was carrying on. They wanted him there. They wanted him there, and the Liberian people were crying to the U.S. embassy. They were campaigning in the diaspora. Everything they ignore all of that, and they still rigged that. So with that historical context, you're looking at that, and these same people are now saying, "Hey, we want to help you." You will do a checkmate. Hey, we had this before. How can we embrace you without making sure that what you did before happened again? So there's as I said, I'm conflicted. I don't know whether to allow them. From my perspective, I don't know if I would allow them, or do that on a more cautious level, that they themselves don't rig it in whoever favor they wanted to rig it. So that's that level of complexity. Again, I'm not a history person or uh, political person. So, but that is the conflicting part that I see in here. There's one aspect you want to allow, but the only other aspect is a historical piece as well. And the ruling party is not making things easy for themselves with all these speculation that's coming around them. So I will leave it on there for now.
Well, if I may chime in, one thing we can be sure of that the U.S. government will act in their own interest.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, so if we want to really know or have an idea about what their intentions are, we just have to understand the geopolitics of the day.
Exactly.
Okay, so we know that um, Asia, China, and specifically in Russia, are advancing in their support to Africa. They're trying to get provide more aid in return for probably the Africa rich resources. Now we do know that one of the objectives of the U.S. is to slow down that progress, if anything, and so they too have countered with an offer to provide more support and aid to Africa as a whole. Okay, so we know that is in their interest. Now, where does Liberia fall in all this?
Exactly.
Okay, we know very well that the current administration has fallen. I mean, prostrate in front of the U.S. Whatever they want,
Out of favor.
have been echoed again. They're willing to do. They're willing to give. Um, so it is in the U.S. interest then that nothing of civil unrest results from these elections.
Yeah.
Okay. At the same time, what Alex was mentioning, we have seen a dwindling of international support to Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever and in fact, some many economists believe. Thank you so much for that suggestion, Alex. They believe that the support that we were giving was not the right for Liberia, because it is better for, instead of trying to prop up the economy, it is better if that aid was to increase capacity of the people themselves, so that they can conduct their economy the way they want to. So with that dwindling down now, that gives rise to potential unrest, potential issues, social, political, economic issues. Okay? So what are they going to do? They're not giving that much aid. At the same time, Liberia is ready to do anything they want. So my analysis is that if they can't get somebody that they want to work with,
Yeah.
they will throw their support on the way up, because we has already pledged support to the U.S.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a
and
brilliant
looking at
take.
the climate, maybe some other people they might want they're not the forerunners today. So the question of election rigging, I think they don't want that to occur. They don't want it. They don't want that stigma. They don't want what possibly may happen because of that,
Mhm.
because it will cause deeper problems. So I can see that they're heading this off by infiltrating so many thousands of observers, so that that will not be an issue. They're trying to head it off because it doesn't work in their interest if Liberia goes to unrest.
Exactly.
So they're trying to head it off. Um, but I don't know how it will play out in the end, since that Liberia to develop, we have to put our resources. I mean, we have to gear our resources toward development, and we
Yep.
have not been doing that very efficiently in the
Yep.
last few years. So I think they find themselves in quite a position, because um, you know, they may want to support the administration, but the administration has to do a lot more. So what I further see, that we are will win with some pressure on changing the way he's doing things in the government.
That is quite an assumption, and you'll have people coming for you, and for saying that you have people coming for you. But I like the way you look at it. I like the way you look at it, because at this point, where it's quite a situation that you're in, and as you said, the U.S. always going to go with who's in their interest, you know. So I I I I, I like that conclusion, even
Gabriel, as
though,
I mean,
right.
if Jimmy, as they say in Liberia, all that thing, that last statement made a vla, a complete vla. That you a change, that vla. Tell me that story.
That's it's not that he will change, it's that what they expect from him, that's why they will
Gabriel, lead that
exactly,
thing.
right.
Lead that thing. They
That's
can't force nothing. That boy will do a thing. Lead that
okay.
thing.
So let's go to the let's segue into I think you talked about that, about what is happening in Lofa, which is part of the reason why uh we these some of these speculations are coming up about as well. um So, are any of you guys familiar with what is happening in Lofa at all?
Yeah,
In, in
they
terms of
did. I
what
did
happened,
listen
in terms of
to.
what happened there.
Well, I listened to what the Joint Security said today,
Hmm.
and I also been listening to some personal accounts
Yeah,
Yeah.
of people who were injured during the ruckus. There are some conflicting stories. Okay,
exactly. Yeah.
um, and so until what I'm understanding is, um, there was rock throwing. It started with rock throwing,
Hmm.
and next thing we know, it was people were attacking uh, 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 um, individual supporters. I heard one person was dragged into the fence, a UP supporter, and then I heard on the other side that there was a CDC supporter that has also lost his life.
Hmm.
So at the end of the day, it looks like it's just going to be everybody's fault. No one person to blame, and and I think if I were to place any blame, I would question how much police presence did we have there at the time,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then it may go down to logistics, but this is what elections involve. If you're going to know you're going to have to cover these elections with security, you're going to have to allot for it. So for me, it degenerated, but I don't believe it would have if we had greater police presence
Yeah.
at the point. So that's what I think in the end
Yeah.
is going to boil down to, that we didn't have enough security presence to keep people away from each other. I think that's how I analyze it.
Yeah. Alex.
Yeah, good. But the drawback that I get from there, good that you talk about police presence and all that. But the drawback I get from there, because you know, the resource envelope of Liberia is such that you, especially during this election, you can deploy X amount of police people all over the country, right? But the problem is when the law enforcement turns partisan, that's where the problem is. To the extent that from the head of the police down, 10 partisan. Everything, the vision that have been passed on to them is to protect this one guy at the top of the country. So you will note that the head of the police in that area in Lofa is from the ruling establishment. The deputy is from the ruling establishment. So therefore, everybody else follows suit, right, in the law enforcement. So because they become partisan, they will protect one side mostly. And we've seen this in different demonstrations, including student demonstration, where there will be a counter demonstration and the police will kind of open corridor for the counter demonstration to attack, the other students who are anti to the government. We've seen this over and over. And that is a key. For me, that's the key take away from all the stuff I listen to, including the one I listen to for joint security, the police, the snippets of information from other people. But the whole crisis appears as though a fight for turf, right? Again, as usual, there are very instances where ruling establishment trying to prevent opposition from holding their situation. And in Lofa, there's this fight where, okay, opposition is supposed to come in to do their rally, and then ruling establishment show up in an attempt to prevent that from happening. So these other people on the other side, the ruling establishment say, okay, we got this ground. And ruling establishment want to prevent that. The other people from the opposition say, no, we got this ground. We will hold our ground. Our people will come. So that's where the fight came from. And the law enforcement in the process exercised their partisan heads.
So there's so many. When I heard that, I think there's so many, and maybe the way I'm looking at it, because democratically we're not mature as a country, right? If a party is going to go to, let's say, Lofa to do a rally, they're supposed to, I don't know if they still request, permission to go there from there and say, hey, we're going to do a rally at this specific location. We need permission to put up tents or whatever it is or whatever. Isn't that what's supposed to happen? And even so, I agree with you. The police forces that are there locally and the ones that are being brought there, they're supposed to ensure that those party, regardless whether they are partisan or not, that is the opposition that is going there, exercise their democratic, rights, which is to do rally, to campaign, right? Regardless of whether you're with the party or not, you're supposed to protect that area that they're going to do campaigning, that to make sure that it is protected, including everybody that is within that vicinity. I thought this was what's supposed to happen. But maybe we're not there yet. The fact that we have people within the ruling party that are, now standing their ground, you can't come to this place too. I think that says a lot about us as a country, where we are in terms of being democratically mature, and allowing people to exercise their right. Also, this is from a previous show that we had. What I'm told, that there's not really a lot of police presence in these counties. Most of the police presence are actually in Maserati. So when they're going there to do this rally, most of the time they have to bring, security forces or police forces to actually make sure that these are happening. And that's a whole another conversation about, decentralizing government to have enough police forces. But I think for me, it's a tragedy. Maybe that's the reason why, some of the reason why the U.S. state look at the violence, the uprising in violence, and they issue that statement which I think we should talk about next as well. Yeah.
Well, I tend to agree that it's very possible that you see partisanship within the security, which is a no-no.
Mhm.
Security personnel must be trained and oriented to be neutral when it comes to politics. But that's easier said than done. We're talking about the reality is we are all influenced some way or another by politics, and well, our ethics has yet to be strengthened so that we conduct ourselves in the right way. Well, this still serves as a blemish, even as you correctly said that maybe there is some of that going on, but it's still a blemish on the security service.
Yeah.
I can't analyze it. And I'm not going to blame the the uh, the supporters,
Exactly.
okay?
Yeah.
Because we know that there's a potential of this erupting. We already know. We've
Yeah,
already seen it.
yeah.
Okay, so we know. So the only way to avoid it is to keep these people separate. That is the only way.
Yeah.
Okay, and so failure to do that falls flatly on the security
On the
services.
security. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
And yeah.
election violence is just separate election violence from intimidation. Election violence happen almost everywhere. I have never remember my following Ghanaian politics. I live and worked in Ghana before from the J.J. Rawlings time. There's always packet of, in fact, one time I remember in election in Ghana that the whole country was stood still and they were waiting for a decision. There's packet of, but the security forces, the police always come in independently to quell these things.
Mhm.
So in unfortunately in Liberia, which is not election violence is not isolated in Liberia, but the ability for the election, the law enforcement to be able to quell this thing without independently without the partisan hat they always have on. And like we understand if you listen to one of the tape where the guy was talking that one of the CDC big guy from the Senate, Fala was the guy that appointed this person. He made sure that he appointed the deputy. He made sure that he appointed all these guys so that because as part of their whole process of trying to take Lofa, I mean, how in your mind that you think you can take Lofa? I mean, and then you're doing all these things in an effort to take Lofa. You appoint a police commander who is partisan, a deputy who is partisan, and then you equip them to take this action to protect you and your own against the other people. That's where the problem is.
So I have a question maybe to you guys, or maybe anybody in the audience that's watching us as well. Do we have, like, if all of this, we are aware of everything that you're saying now, aren't these concerns that need to be brought to neck of intimidation, intimidating people? I'm
They talk
serious.
about
Maybe again,
they
this
can't
is
give voter rule. They have to go to they
this
have to go
is,
to
and then again, this is
they
how
have to
our
go to Supreme
democracy,
Court to command them to each day. They talk about they can't go to the neck.
this is how our democracy improves. Like, you have to hold people feet to the fire, regardless of the idea that we have that, hey, they're not doing their job. With these cases that you just, incidences that you just mentioned, somebody's supposed to bring this guy, report him to neck. One, if they don't do anything, you press charges. This is how you improve.
Press charges to
Investigate
who?
it to the
The same
Supreme
police.
Court. To the first, you do it to the neck, and then if they don't respond, you take it. This is how
No,
you hold people accountable.
Gabriel, I'm not cutting you off, but that that is not a neck issue. Election conflict between opposing parties fighting. That's not it's a law enforcement issue. It's not a
Exactly.
me
That's what I'm
issue.
saying. It's a law enforcement
Yeah.
issue. What is
That
that law
because
enforcement?
if 2 person fighting grand, then they gotta go 10 neck. If 3 person fighting right, gotta go 10
If
neck.
it's
It's not a
campaign
law.
related,
It's a
what's
law
one?
enforcement issue. It's a joint
If
security
it's
problem.
right, if it's campaign related, what one party is intimidating the other, that yes, even though it's a security issue, but it also boils down to campaign intimidation, right? This is where the neck is brought in. Another thing I wanted to say is that do we have invested? I think Jimmy pointed out there was several stories regarding that incident. Do we have investigative journalists in Liberia that can follow story through and through and make sure that the accurate part of that story comes in? And if there is somebody who want to take this story to the court, they have the accurate version that happened. That this is what happened based on witnesses, based on investigative journalism that happened. We don't see any of that. We just see clips, you know, hearsay, stories of what actually happened. There's not an investigative journalism that takes place to follow through these stories to make sure they see it to the end. You know, but those are my own. Those are my concern. Like if we want to grow democratically, we have to do the right process. Follow whether we think it is not being followed through, we have to initiate it. And let other people come through and see the processes. When this happened, this is how this other party, this is how the opposition approach it. This is how we're going to do it. But none of that's happening. But that's my 2 cents. Um,
What, Gabriel? I mean, I like the way you're thinking, but from my observation, is that people just want power. But many of the politicians I've seen, they just want power. They're not particularly interested in developing our democracy and making things sure things are fair. They just want to get power any which way they can. And the developing of our people, of the electorate, of their knowledge, of this and their skills is not one of the goals, you
yeah.
know. So it's only wishful thinking. I think what I think where it will stop and end is what Alex mentioned with the enforcement of the law.
Mhm.
We That's where it starts. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I said what this will be. The observation that everybody's going to look and see is to see how well we enforce the law during this whole process. And if the law doesn't take a very neutral and professional stance, then it will reflect bad. So the security forces will have to be professional in how they do things. Um, and we'll see by what happens with the investigation.
Yeah. So that I'm glad you actually said that. That is a segue to our next question here with the campaign ongoing. The next question that we have is who do we think is better equipped to enforce the rule of law? So, based on the repertoire of the candidates that we see, uh, based on what they have done, you can look at the plethora of incidences. You can, if you want, you can look at it from their historical experiences, and in terms of aiding to answer this question, who do we think, you know, is better equipped to enforce the rule of law in our country as, with all these candidates? I know we're looking at the top four or top five maybe, but who do we think uh, stands a better chance in doing that?
My answer is short. Any of the other top contenders besides Georgia. That's my answer.
That's very short. Okay.
And then the top contenders beside whom?
Besides Georgia.
Besides we are,
Mm.
Continuing
yeah,
Georgia will be continuing the lawlessness, continuing
yeah.
the breach of even simple traffic rule and leading to traffic congestion, to extrajudicial killings, to
Hmm.
people not having a day in court. I mean, the whole 9 yards about law enforcement. Anybody else any of the opposing parties will be better equipped than Joshua.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Jimmy?
uh, when it's easy to criticize
Yeah.
and say, "I will do this, I will do that." I think Mike Tyson has a beautiful quote.
Yep.
Say everybody's got a plan until they get
They
punched in
got
the
punched
mouth.
in the face. Yeah.
So, making the law enforceable and going up. You're talking about the people. You're talking about enforcing the law, and you're
Yeah.
talking about people. Uh, and that is a delicate way of doing it. If you don't have the something like Rawlings had, the way you had
Yes.
a military might behind you,
Charisma. Yeah.
and you have that military machine, or like Kigami, you don't have that kind of regiment station behind you.
Yeah.
So you have to find a way to do this, enforce the law with a civil police force and persuading your people to buy into enforcing the law.
Mhm.
So this is going to be it's quite a daunting task,
Yeah.
and people take it for granted. Oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I said, I even asked Ellen Johnson one time when she came for a town hall meeting, um, that she had some old people from the past regimes who have questionable
Characters. Yeah.
involvement,
Yeah.
be- past involvement, and then I said, "What will you do about that if it comes up?" She said she will enforce the law, but she found out enforcing the law is different. It's more than what she
Saying it.
what she
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
So the question is good. Who is prepared to know how to enforce the law?
Mm.
And like I said, it's going to take some persuasion. It's going to take some force. It's a bite and blow. You can't just you don't have it's not military rule.
Hmm.
So who has it? I know the counselor Gonglo is big on law.
Hmm.
He's big on law and he and legalities. Uh, but how is he big on? How big is he on convincing people to change? Tell motorbike cyclists from now on, you cannot. When you see a red light, you have to stop.
Yeah.
Um, Tell police people who don't receive money, don't receive pay for months and months, or very little pay, that you can't take bribes.
Hmm.
You know, that is it's a tall order. And so when these people promise these things, I just wonder, until you get there, then you will know if you can do it. But right now, I don't know who
Until
really
you
can
get
do
punched in the face, huh?
it.
Then you'll figure out how to fight.
Yeah.
Um, for me, I think, um, I agree with you. You know, one of the things the Chancellor Gonglo champion is the rule of law. Um, so I can't take that away from him. I think his what he's what they refer to him as the poor man lawyer. So again, always we always want to we can't speculate. We can only see what you've done and say, hey, that gave us a little bit of inkling as to what you will be able to do. So for him, there's a little bit of track record there that can say, hey, at least we can take solace in that part that he has a little bit of track record as that as well. Um, with I think Cummings on the other side actually talks a little bit about that in terms of I think recently he was on a show where he talks about uh, some of the basic thing to enforce to change behavior is one, paying the police people right. If you pay them right, they would be able to carry out their jobs to do their jobs. Um, you know, so I think for he has the same way with Gonglo, even though he hasn't been in politics or I think he has a little bit of inkling in terms of not to say that he's done it before, but in terms of how to change behavior to make people do the right thing. So he has that little bit of, hey, I'm going to use the behavioral aspect of it. If you pay people the right way, you pay people a livable wage, like the police, they won't be out there ignoring people that disobey the law. They'll carry out their duty. But on the grand scheme of thing, I actually agree with you that you don't know, even with that uh, assumption that we just gave, you don't know that until you actually are in the physical seat of the presidency, and you are seeing things of this is everything that we deal with in society is all about behavior. you know Everything is behavior, how to change behavior and getting people to do the right thing, even to influence people to do the right thing, is all about behavior. So it's all about who's going to have the bigger influence in terms of changing mind and getting people to do the right thing. But I think those two people have a little bit of inkling of being a little bit effective in terms of uh, getting people to
Now, Gabriel,
follow.
that defeats your acclamation of the statement that Eastman alluded to Mike Townsend, and you were hailing. Hey. Now you come here to give a campaign page for somebody who absolutely has not done anything in that direction, but you still held that statement. Now you can speak to Gonglo because his nature as a lawyer and what he's done, he has a track record, as you stated, as Isma stated. So in practice, he's done it. So if you want to talk about who is better equipped, if you give all these different questions that people would take, and if I have that question, I would even say Gonglo because he has done it in his life. I will agree with all of you. But the reason why I say any of the other parties, because the guy who is already in power has demonstrated that he's not equipped, he's not able to enforce the rule of law from the things that have been happening in our country. So without the details, I think all of the other top contenders, because by virtue of the fact that each of them, I believe, will rise to the occasion of good governance better than the guy who is there currently, most things will fall in place, including law enforcement. That was the basis on which I said any of the other contenders more than the guy who is currently there.
Yeah.
But if you want to be specific, based on practical experience, those who have done it, then I would say Gonglo.
Okay, so I don't think
You mind if I come in, Gabriel? I wanna push a little bit because Pala or Rita brought something where to say the administration of George we are. So the question, if we take apart that question a little bit, is it better equipped? Now, this is not about has the desire or the will.
Yeah.
Or the
maybe equipped is not the right word. Somebody who is better in a place, a better place to
You see, because I worry equip me, tell
you
you the
already
truth with the
have the experience,
popularity,
right?
with the popularity.
My man,
And I've always said this.
Reading these things, don't read it for the word itself, read it for the context.
But you got to read it for the both. You got to do both. Words. If you're looking at a lawyer, they will tell you pay attention to the words. So he's right.
No, I'm not lawyer.
I'm
looking at it from the context.
I've always contended that the kind of popular support that the president enjoys, he could get people to do many, many, many different things because of his popularity. He could change behavior if he so desired to.
Exactly.
He could change behavior.
He could do a lot of good things if he so desired to. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what they say?
He could have. Anyway, he could have.
Everybody has potential, but not everybody invite their potential. So you have your potential. They say this guy will be such a great, but not everybody embrace that potential. As a result, that potential you have could be a waste wasted talent. So he
Exactly.
has that potential. I've spoken to people who says it that they say if this guy want to, like, if he realized the kind of power he has in terms of his popularity, he can
Yes,
influence the young generation in our country to become the best poor country in our country, or to do
exactly. He could
anything
do a thing that everybody
become the
pass
best educated nation.
in the
But
right direction.
he doesn't realize that he has that potential, but he doesn't know that potential, and that's the tragedy of this. To piggyback on what I was saying, so what
No,
I
he
said
know
is
he
that,
has that potential, but he using it in the wrong. He using it for selfish reason.
yeah. So to piggyback on what I was saying, right, this comment that I made about Gonglo, you know, Gonglo has that's what he's known for in terms of his ability to rule. The reason why I brought Mr. Cummings in was the behavioral change aspect that he continued to talk about, right? Yes, Gonglo has the practical side of it in terms of have he has done that, but I always what the reason why I brought Mr. Cummings in is that the behavioral change aspect to the people following and changing rule of law. That's the reason why I brought that aspect of it.
But I'm
And
focused on like one year the wrong campaign. But
I'm not here to run campaign, but I'm just telling you, got to everything we do in society, even what we're saying now, is all about trying to change people' behavior and influence people' behavior. Even when you go out there, you go interview, you're trying to influence somebody. Everything you do, you're a salesman. You're selling yourself in one way or another, and that's the aspect of it that I'll bring in. Is that he may not have the practical side, but he have that behavioral aspect, changing behavioral aspect side. Gonglo has the practical side of it, but also I agree with you that hey, everybody has that ability to do that, but um, the guy who's currently there, because he himself he has proven that he doesn't have that potential. But that's why I will leave it. I think we should jump in.
all right,
The next thing I want us to look at here, it's something very, 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 very um, not sensitive, but uh, I think we kind of alluded to it some way or another. Is the statement from the U.S. State Department in terms of their statement about the, you know, warnings in terms of wanting fair elections. And I think what we've seen so far is I don't know if that is true, or it could be maybe we ourselves are speculating that most of the political parties in Liberia are ignoring the warning that these people gave. Um, um, and so there is two questions in this. One, why do we think they're ignoring it? And if they're ignoring that, why do you think they should even pay attention to that? Why is the warning from the US carry more weight than what they are doing within the country? So there's a twofold in that too. Any of you?
but the first place the question I want to ask is, Gabriel, is you made a statement about most of the political actors ignoring the U.S. warning. That's the question I want to. Are political actors ignoring that warning?
I I don't. Some people. So what is? I don't know if you. I mean, you should be on social media and you should probably be following on this thing, right? So what is currently happening now is that they are putting it against each other. So one party opposition will say, "Hey, this statement that the U.S. State Department made is going. They're referring to this party, or they're referring to this other party. There's referring. So there's instead of looking at it collectively, what does this actually mean for the country as a whole? What are these people trying to say? What, like, there's a derivative from which they made that comment. And I think the derivative aspect of it is what we should be getting to, as opposed to saying, oh, Alex, they're talking about you, or Jimmy, that comment it was referring
I
to
think
you. Right,
I think I get what you're trying to say.
right.
I've heard a couple of things. I heard some groups say, "Oh, that is intended for the government because they
Exactly.
are the only ones who can rig the election."
Right.
And and then I hear the argument. No, it says that is wide open. Anybody. They say anybody. That means the lowly person. And let me try to uh, give y'all some history on this thing.
Mhm.
If you notice recently, some people have already we've already heard that some people have been denied visa already
Yeah.
before this announcement. some people who have been involved in the political arena.
Mm-hmm.
We have already started hearing. I could mention a few that I hear because it's rumor. I don't want to repeat it.
No. Just keep
But
it
we've
that way.
already heard that some top people were denied visa.
Uh-huh.
So this only made it official. This is the weapon they had already, or I shouldn't call it a weapon, but this is the disciplinary action
Yes.
they have already started to employ to chastise or put, punish anybody who would cause issue in our elections or cause problems in our day-to-day activities. So they have already started utilizing this tool, this rod, this thing they have, and now they've simply announced it.
Mhm.
And but this is something that have already been done already. So does it matter to some people? I think that's your next question. For some people, no, it doesn't matter. But I think it might have been intended for a few. Just like you, I agree with what you're saying. It's intended for a few, and those few are those who really need to go to America every now and then to do whatever they have to do, or their people need to want to go to America. Those the main people it was targeted for. And believe it or not, if you have somebody who's trying to be president or vice president of this country, and they decide that you're not going to get a visa, I mean, you will never be able to make a state visit to America.
Yeah.
So it is targeted for some people, who it will have an effect on. But this is something that has already been utilized. It's just now they have finally just announced it. That's all. I see the only difference I've seen.
So let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, Gabriel, sometimes especially when we need to sometimes take our partisan hats and look at things objectively. I say that because I have read all these different surrogates on social media, and for good reasons. This is campaign time. Everybody got to pitch their side. Everybody got to pitch their whatever their intentions are.
Yeah.
But then we need to go back to the statement from the U.S. Secretary of State and understand that the statement is relating to the election and the possibility of rigging that election.
Uh-huh.
And if that is true, then who has the possibility of rigging the election? Then therefore, who is this statement more pointed to? Now, let me help you.
It's not just the possibility of rigging, it includes
Let
violence.
me help you.
Right.
Let me help the audience, the listening audience here, to read the statement, right? And I will read it from the place where it says.
Read it in colloquial, please.
Okay. The United States government.
There you go.
will do that thing they call visa restriction.
Yep.
For the people there.
Well, visa is just will not let nobody.
I doing the really
okay. The U.S. people say they will not let nobody come to their country.
There you go.
They will not give you visa.
There you go.
If they think you're responsible for
spoiling the election business.
Spoiling the election.
One.
And they said through certain way you will do it.
Yep.
They get some thing they call manipulation. I mean, make kata in the whole thing. Manipulation, you could play with the voter roll, you could do this, so that problem can go to the election commission people. That people then will manipulate, they see what they're doing right now, where the other party they say, no, we want the election roll. They're wasting time with it, that manipulation there. Some people will do and they actually call voter suppression and manipulation there, or raking the election. That means they will cheat.
Yep.
They will cheat the other people there. So also they say people who will use violence.
Violence.
People who will use violence. I know that they call violence. Violence to prevent people from exercising, for people from their rights, people from demonstration.
Yep.
To prevent people from demonstrating. For example, if people want to demonstrate, say, oh, but why don't get a voter road and then go to net office to go demonstrate? Then you can't waste water on there. Or you can't
fight. You're fighting there.
You'll be fighting there.
Yeah.
All right. So people who will use violence to prevent people from exercising their right to freedom of association and peaceful assembly. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Then they also say use of measure designed to prevent political parties, voters, civil society, or the media from disseminating their views. That means you put all kind of things in place.
What happened in Lofa?
Political leader then.
Yeah.
Not to be able to, and also voters and the people what they call civil society, the people who can count on people's side when something happens. When they do bad to you, the people can count on your side. And also the press people then. The people who can get the news from putting their thing in outside. Right? Who will stop that from happening? Then they also say people who are engaged in any other activity designed to improperly influence the outcome of the election. That means they will use other means. They want the people talk about other means. They can use all kind of bobati ways.
Yeah, anybody now.
Anybody
who try to do something to change the outcome and not correct. And they do it the wrong way.
So
all of them.
They say or engage in any other activity designed to improperly influence the outcome of the election. Right?
Thank you.
So anybody will do all kind of kata. All right. So the thing here, the last part, they're talking to everybody.
Thank you. Talking to everybody.
The last part talking to everybody. People who will make people scary.
Including the violence.
All the other part talking to government.
Yeah.
The first part, the first plenty thing, and the first three one we measure is talking to government.
I think the violence referred to everybody too. The violent aspect of it.
No, they say, Gabriel.
They use violence. Yeah, it can be everybody.
Refer to everybody.
It's the use of violence to prevent people from exercising their rights to freedom of association or peaceful assembly. Yeah, it could mean everybody because, like what happened in Lofa, another group preventing other people from having a party and stuff like that. And if it's political leader who are found culpable or trying to do that. So yes, that part, Gabriel is right, that part also referred to everybody. So it referring to everybody, but mainly it referring to the government.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So they think it cut across, it talking to everybody. They're not talking to one person, but mainly they're talking to the government and also they're talking to everybody, especially everybody. Not mean the two people that were fighting in Lofa. They mean the political leader, the BB people. Because they come to carry one yakwa to Lofa there to go.
They care about the elephant, not the grass.
But they talk about the elephant, not the grass. Gabriel, you're right. So they talk about the party leader there. That means if they catch you, some kind of way. Now what they say, find complacent, some kind of way. That visa, they will not give it to you. And they will not stop there. They will not give it to your wife. They will not give it to your children. Because they say people that are close to you. They say, let me read that. The person who honor married Democrats and lead up to the election. The visa now will apply to specific individual and okay, no. Yeah, so they also saying that they're not talking to Liberia. The people then they will catch are the people they're talking to. They're not talking about the whole Liberia where students go for visa, the other person go for visa, and Liberia they're putting it on. People then who they care. It can be the election commissioner, people then. It can be the election commission people then. It can be the police people then. The head of the police people then, the RG, the deputy and all that stuff. It can be the court people, the Supreme Court people. And it can be political party leaders. Right? It can be the government people, ministers, everybody. So it can be political leaders, everybody. That's what they're talking here.
Yeah,
So,
I also like the way
so
that
Gabriel, to conclude, I don't agree with the ignoring.
right.
It's just that the people the different surrogates have been trying to trade places who is referring to, who is not referring
Who's
to,
culpable, who could be
especially putting
culpable.
context to what JMB said and what JMB didn't say and all kind of stuff. So that's where they're trying to, the people were trying to, but I don't think people are ignoring this to the best of what I know now. Maybe if you allude what happened to Lofa to Fala, then maybe he may be complacent. Maybe
Mhm.
that's the closest this thing has come in terms of ignoring.
Yeah, and I also want to say I think I like the way that in terms of, yes, there are part of it that refer to every political party involved in this campaign, but there's also a certain part of it that puts a majority of the owners on the ruling party right now. And the reason why I look at it that way is the way that Mr. Cumming explained it, right? He said if anybody who is more culpable of doing that, it's the ruling party. And he gives the several reasons, meaning that we talk about this the runoff, right? They are responsible to fund NEC to make sure NEC is well resourced to, to the runoff, to go to do the runoff, to have enough money to one first, not just go into the runoff to conduct the election. So if they are withholding funding from NEC, that is being complacent. That could jeopardize their ability to conduct an effective election, right? So that's another way he looked at it. He said also because they have the resources to do that, so the onus of them of that statement falls upon them, right? Yes, even though the violent part of it and the other two aspects we talk about, it applies to everybody. But in terms of being culpable, being complacent, in terms of underfunding next, so they don't conduct election, properly, or having enough resources to do a second runoff, should we go to a runoff? If they fail to do that, that they fall right into that. So that puts a majority of the blame on them just because they have the treasury at their disposal to be able to fund the campaign to make sure everything runs smoothly. But that's that. Other than that, I think everything you guys said is true. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, Gabriel, based on that, there's something you said earlier. Let me just comment on it. And then you reminded me here. You're talking about should there be a second round? I don't think the ruling establishment is pushing this whole 4 round victory as a means of what you said earlier. I think it's all like they believe that they know that if they go for the second round, if they go in a second round, which there will be, I believe that there will be a second round.
There will be. Yeah.
I believe that there will be a second round. If they go to the second round with any other party, their chances of losing the election is high.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is why they're pushing all this narrative. It's not about funding. That's why they're pushing all this narrative. Of course, I agree with you that if defunding or not funding the election properly is a manipulation.
Yeah.
But their fear is if they go for the second round, that means for example, if they win 35% in the first round, so it will be they versus what 65% of the population.
Yep.
That's the problem. And maybe 5% in the second round will come on their side. So they versus 60% of the voting population. So that's their fear. That's why they're pushing all this thing. But in my belief, that election is going for second round.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't say who going there because I don't want one campaign yet.
Yeah. Jimmy, any other thing on this before we move on to the next?
No, yeah, that's it. I think that's the threat. In other words, if you go be spoiling Liberia business and you think I'm sit down in America, you lie. You're not going to sit down. You're not going there. And I'm telling you right now, some people can't go there.
Oh yeah, you're right, Jimmy. They already, during the UNG, you want to be specific. They during the
UNGA. Yeah.
Some people were not getting.
They were not even. Thank you. They've already been doing it. They just announced it. And I think what will follow will be sanctions. Because
Absolutely.
if they're going to restrict you, it's very likely the next thing will follow is sanctions, so they can take your property.
Yeah, there could be targeted sanction, additional targeted sanction, like the way they did the 3 officials, and there may be also their funding to the government projects and stuff like that may dwindle, especially if it's the current ruling establishment that is fund culpable. And I hate to say that, but I like to be realistic. I'm a human being. If should they mango and win,
Yeah.
then contrary to the U.S. position, then the
Yeah.
U.S. may go beyond just visa restriction,
Yeah.
may do targeted economic sanction on individuals, and may restrict funding to to government support, such as budget support and all that stuff. They might.
I think that also comes from what happened in Nigeria and what happened in Sierra Leone
Yeah.
as well. They say, okay, there's a little bit of trend here. Let's put a stop to it before that actually gets out of hand. People just feel that they can just break election and So I think
Especially
there's a
especially in
backstory.
our own backyard, in our own
Yeah,
stepchild,
exactly. Yeah.
in our own stepchild. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, since we're on this whole campaign, I mean election, let's go on to the next topic here, which is I know this is it's going to be a very contested thing here. Fire in a hole.
Yeah, fine.
So the next question I want us to look at is who's actually, you know, funding these campaign? How are these parties or candidate financing their campaign? And is that I know that you might say, hey, you can't even trace finances, where people get their funding from. So how are you even going to answer this question? But I think that's something we need to start looking at going forward as if we want a democracy that is not influenced by money and ones that is, where any poor person with a great idea can come in and become president regardless of whether he has money or not. um, then we need to start looking into campaign financing in terms of the sources of funding. And I know we also have a big caste system. If we really do want to take a fight to dissolve that caste system that we have, those are the things we need to start looking at. So, like, do any of you guys know how any of these parties are funded in terms of finance? Uh,
Well, Gabriel, I mean, Ismail can come in, but before Ismail come in, let me just make a little joke there. When I look at the number of people, I look at this particular subject, when I look at the number of people that are taking part in the election, I can just laugh. Because how are they funding this campaign thing? Campaign funding is a big thing throughout the country. So
It's very
all
expensive.
these 20 candidates, how are they funding it? I can just laugh. Like they say, I just laugh.
Thousands of dollars. How much you got to pay to? I think for president you got what 3,000.
yeah, I think so.
I forgot the number. There's 1,005, 2,000, 2,000, something like that.
But that's not a lot of money. If that's
that one is a little drop in the bucket. But the campaign itself,
to keep it running.
Even Gabriel, I was in Liberia, and you run campaign, right? The people are looking at you to even put bread on their table for that period.
Yes.
The people are looking at you to buy them something every day. They're looking at you to buy them
every day. It's a party.
Every day, them a ball.
Yes. That's it.
And then the major things, you got to do some project here, especially when you're running as a representative. But I think in this conversation, let me move it to the top, the presidency.
Exactly.
But just to add on the representative at that macro level, you are dealing with people to people, person to person in the district. The person gets school fee. The process building up to the election, the person gets school fee. The other person gets there. The person here, you got to divide back or red. Or the other bro here, if I bear a breach to the place, I will win all that group. Like one of my friends, he's running somewhere, I won't be specific, but he got to bear this breach. And this breach is is the trump card for his winning.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Get that from them, man.
I like him too. He's hardworking. Besides that, he's a
You know,
hardworking.
so
Yeah, yeah,
they got these different candidates. Then when you come to the presidential level, you deal with the whole country.
yeah.
So yes, man, how do people funding that be there, my man?
Yeah, that's a good question. And but to tell you, typically in Africa, we're not unique. It's all individual.
Hmm.
It's all individual. The people who come and run, you always find that they are wealthy or they have some wealthy people behind them.
Yeah.
That's typically it. And also you hear some rallies, political rallies, selling T-shirts, selling hats. You hear them coming to America and having various banquets and whatnot, all in the vein of getting financial support for their campaign. Um, I don't. It's an interesting. The NEC says that they're supposed to be reporting, but I have never heard
Lead out on topic. Go ahead, I'll let you be.
I have never heard them reporting how much finances they were supported by. Are we joking? And let me tell you, even though you said lead out thing, Alex.
No, I was just kidding though.
No, 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 no. I understand what you're saying, but this is for me. If we're not doing the essential things, then we're just making mockery of this thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
There's a reason why these things are in place. And if you're just ignoring all these things, then what are you really doing? And why are we ignoring? Why are they not reporting? What is so difficult that they're not reporting? I think we are we're not being thorough, and then we're not being honest to ourselves. If we're going to have a democracy, these pillars of democracy that have been pointed out and established, we have to abide by them if we're
Yeah.
going to have an actual democracy. So, yes, I believe they should be reporting where they got the money, who got the money, how much money they got. Why is that not happening? Why not at all? If it is happening, how can we gain access to that information? So if we're not going to do it right, then why are we doing it at all? You know.
Yeah.
So,
So
the reason why I said that is in the Liberian parlance, lead acting, meaning we know what's up, right? Because if we sit here to discuss the election, the finance law, there's a whole law on election financing. There's the issue of how much money you can get from abroad. There's the reporting aspect, like you're alluding to. All that stuff is there, right? But the time we had left versus what in my mind, so if you want to go into that, then we have to look at the intricacies of the laws and so how it applies. Then we even have to start quoting the law and who did what and stuff like that. But for the sake of this conversation, we're just discussing how the financing, right? I know we got to go. You're right on spot what you're saying, and as the field that I work in and what I've done over the years, I subscribe to that we do the right. Even where I'm at, the people that I'm supporting, the financing that we're raising, we are ensuring accountability and transparency and everything. At least for our side, okay. The aspect that is so, but how? Let's just toy with the question of how the financing first. Then maybe in another conversation we discuss the bridging of the election laws and the campaign financing law and stuff like that. But you are spot on. You are right to ask those questions.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I agree with Jimmy though. If and this is again, it goes back to the people within the opposition. If something isn't being done right, if you are doing it like you said, whatever party you're affiliated with, if they are doing it, then you guys are supposed to now hold everybody else feet to the fire, right? If you're doing the right thing and somebody else is you operating within the law and the rest of the people are not doing it, you're supposed to hold everybody else feet to the fire. That hey, we're doing the right thing. We're reporting our finances to NEC, and but the rest of the other people are not doing it. Not because you want to kind of you know kind of suffocate them politically or whatever, but to set a standard that going for in the next election, the next wave of candidates that are doing they will follow suit. They say, oh, if we don't do that, this is what's going to happen. NEC now, if you report that to NEC for campaign financing violation, NEC will now have the the ability to take action against them, right? To say, hey, if you don't do it, you don't report by such and such time, we're gonna I don't know whatever action they're going to take, right? That is how it's the gradation in terms of how the incremental improvement in our democracy. This is how you build up to it. If you are doing the right thing, you it's not to say, hey, I want to report Jimmy because Jimmy is it's because you want to say, hey, the next time we have an election, people will see that if parties are not reporting their campaign finances, this is what NEC do. This is what NEC would do. This is what if you are doing the right thing, this is what you should do. These are the action you would take, and these are the steps that will happen. So there's a little bit of trend of at least somebody doing something that is evidence within that, but we can't just say, hey, yeah, they're not doing it, we're not doing it. Everybody like we and this is endemic within our culture. We're passive. We don't do things. We will not focus on anything yet until something major happen where somebody just come in from the diaspora and just dump money, huge
But
amount of money
yeah,
in
but
somebody's campaign,
I'm
and
glad
then
you're
all of a
going there.
sudden,
So,
all of a
Gabriel,
sudden,
I'm
you want to also discuss campaign financing law, or you want us to just discuss how
no,
the
but
financing?
let me interject something which is important. There's a danger when you don't know where the money come from. You could
exactly.
have a complete mafia organization that is sponsoring somebody so they can get all our minerals. I think Emmanuel Jackson talking about a lot of foreign businessmen finance elections. You
Yeah,
can buy somebody know that there's a forerunner in the elections who might likely. We've heard over this election, we heard of $30 million being offered.
yep,
We've heard of all these things. Somebody who could be, and believe you me, if you take somebody $30 million in this world, you're obligated to that. Do not think you would just take somebody $30 million. You can be a fool, and it will just go scot free. It will not.
yep,
You will pay for that money one way or another. So we need to know who's financing these things because they could be buying the country, they could be buying the candidate, they could be adversely influencing the candidate.
yep.
But all these things don't mean nothing to us. We don't even know the danger. It's just like small children playing with fire. They don't even know you can burn the house down.
Exactly. Yeah,
You
exactly.
know.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I have to agree.
So it's important that we know, but it's something that just swept under the rug. We
Yeah.
ignored,
I
and we
mean,
come back
there's
again.
I can this is not I will make the full disclosure. I support Mr. Cummings in his election, right? So I will make that full disclosure. So I'm aware of how he raises his money, and this is not something everybody is a secret. He does. The ANCs are very effective in terms of when they all the opposition party are aware that how effective these guys are when they're raising funds. I'm talking about when they do fundraiser. We do fundraiser that's 200,000 raised, in fundraisers, right? Plus he himself is, he has his own resources as well. If there's anything, as I said, is the NEC now requiring him to say, hey, as a party, you need to report this, but we are aware of, how, you know, effective the ANC is in terms of raising money. That, as I said, I've sat on fundraiser where over 200,000 were raised in one fundraiser, and they do that continually. Every fundraiser they do, they raise that amount in addition to his his personal resources that he has as well. So I can speak to that aspect of it. The only aspect I can speak to as to is to whether that is being reported, or if they're not reporting it, whether the ANC or any other political party, whether NEC is now putting the pressure on them that this is the rule by such and such cutoff time, just how you give such and such cutoff time for election, you need to give cutoff time that they need to report their financing and how that's coming from. Because like you said, it has a a bigger political consequences if we don't know where the money is coming from. We can literally sit in Liberia thinking that we have a country, but it's being run by a group of mafia because they bought the candidate. So I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Gabriel, you keep going to the place I don't want to go. But we're discussing how these candidates financing their company broadly. Stop this specific thing because I can say here and say the ANC that you're talking about, they are forbidding the election laws by raising these millions of dollars they are raising from people who are behind the scene to all kind of corporate interests and different things, which have a large potential on what Emmanuel Jackson just stated, similar things that happened in 2005. The potential of these things happening in our country with
You
all
can
these
speak to that, and
millions
that will garner
that
argument.
are
Let's
being
speak to
raised by
that.
the ANC,
Right.
but
Right.
all these millionaires and corporate interests and all these people. And that is one of the reasons why I didn't want to go into these specifics. And let's talk broad terms.
No, we can't talk broadly that because that's what the question asks is how do you I just gave you an example, right? How I think the ANC raises his money, right? I've said it. This is not a I've sat to be honest with you, I've sat in on UP campaign fundraiser on Zoom. I've gotten on campaign fundraiser. This is not a hating thing within the opposition. Everybody's aware of how the ANC raises its fund. These individual, like one of my papas said, Mr. Bond, he's the former Minister of Finance on the Taylor. He said the diaspora is like the 16 state, the county of Liberia, and they are the middle class of Liberia, right? Because there's no middle class. There are people in it, and this is what the ANC utilizes to raise their funding. It's not about anybody behind closed door. You go there, like I said, I don't know if you ever been on it. There's guys like myself. Hey, my wife and I will pledge 5,000. Hey, we'll do such and well, I'll give 200. It's not somebody coming and say, oh, I'm just going to give $1 million. No, it's so you can speculate that, and we can talk about it if you want to. But that's the source that I wanted to get to, not so much about in addition to how the money is raised, but also the reporting aspect of it, right? These are things we need to talk about. You know.
So when Ismail spoke earlier, he spoke about I took note here. He named 4 ways that people are financing their campaign from the top contenders to the the other people who are just in the elections. Sometimes I wonder what interest people going to an election. Yeah, even though everybody believes in themselves, but when somebody goes into election, we all knowing that the person will not win. So in fact, we're having this conversation yesterday, and we're talking about the different candidates, the 20 different candidates. Why would people go into election knowing that they will not win? Then but somebody said something. He said, my man, Ellis, you never know. Some of these people have somebody, one group, whether it's mafia group or their group that they've just told them a story to. And they say, okay, you're running in Liberia, they will put money behind you. I'm not talking about any specific, I'm talking about some of the people who are way beyond, who are not even especially mentioned in this election, right? So the guy made that statement. So when Ismail spoke, he named 4 different ways. He said, there are people that are behind the candidates who are raising money for the candidates. He also spoke about the diaspora as a critical mass, and I believe that the diaspora is a critical mass for helping with campaign financing, because everybody come to the diaspora, they will raise 200,000 here, they will raise 60,000 here, they will raise 150 here. In fact, during this election, there's a heavy reliance, like other elections previous years that I've been involved with. There's been heavy reliance on the diaspora. He also spoke about local rallies, different rallies, and sale of T-shirts and paraphernalia. But in this election, we know that some parties are selling. In this case, let me talk about the top contenders. Some parties are selling theirs and they are raising money from it. Some parties are not selling; they are giving their own free. For example, the ruling establishment. I've not heard the ruling establishment selling, but they're giving these lapa and different things free. So one wonders how they're funding all these things.
I mean, to be fair with them too, if you read the budget, they allocated 10 million for campaign, so you can say
In
that as
in
well.
the in
Yeah,
the
there was 10 million for the campaign. The president, we made noise about it on this platform. Yeah,
yeah, no, I
for
remember.
campaigning.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to be clear. I thought you were talking about the CDC budget.
No,
I know
for
we
the
talk about it
campaign.
on this platform.
Right.
So you sure that money is going to the CDC?
Now we can argue about that, whether that is even enough, because it was in there and we made noise about it. As everything that comes within a budget, we make noise. Nobody follows through. No investigative journalists to really make sure that whether that happens or not. But they allocated 10 million for campaigning, right? We saw the helicopter that he just that he was just on to travel to southeast. There's To rent that thing for I don't know how many days is in the millions, right? So the question becomes whether that money was enough, and if not, if for him we can assume that if he's getting any money, it's coming from the state resources. The biggest question is this: yes, even though it's coming from the state resource, they still have to report it, right? They
Mhm.
per the next requirement, they're supposed to report it. The biggest question is the other opposition party is how are they getting their funding? How
Well, you see, Gabriel, unlike the Unity Party or the ANC and maybe Gonglo and other people, unlike them, like you stated, it is clear we know how UP is raising its money, right? Through sale of T-shirt, through rallies, through the diaspora, and maybe there could be other people behind who are dropping money here and there. We know you just explained how the ANC is raising its money. We all know, I mean, ANC is famous for that. As soon as ANC show up somewhere, the women when they line up, by the time they raise 60,000, raise 100,000, we all know that,
yeah.
right? So we know how it's clear how ANC is raising its money. We can't say that of CDC because one thing is the CDC diaspora, the CDC Liberia seems to be completely disconnected from
Correct.
diaspora. So they're not having that kind of the way ANC will sit here and just before they go to raise money, the way UP will have rallies and it's not happening that with the CDC. So money is not raised like it used to be. If money is raised from the diaspora, then it just drop it here and there. And I don't know whether they have people behind them, that they're raising their money. So again, one will wonder where they're taking their money from. Like you, Gabriel said, it got to be from state sources. Then all of a sudden you call yourself biomedicine and the road you should have built himself easy. You bring
Jumping
helicopter.
over a
Yeah, you're jumping over the road that
over
you
a
should
with
have
helicopter.
the road that you should have built, quote unquote.
You
After
fly over a with helicopter.
the country is enduring a private jet. The guy flying private jet every day, the country is doing that budget. Now you bring another helicopter to fly over the road that you built. You're supposed I will use Gabriel's word here. How you call it? Supposedly?
Supposedly, yeah. He's
We're
supposed,
supposed
right?
to build, right?
He's supposed to
So
build, right?
it's interesting to know, and then that goes to what you and Ismail was saying about campaign fund reporting and tracking by the NEC. Again, until Gabriel and Ismail, until we get a good leader who will put this country trajectory in the right direction with good governance, until then, all these different elements ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
When we get a good leader who has a vision for the country, who is selfless, then all those little components will add up. Then we'll start having the effective implementation of the election financing law.
Yeah. If I may say this, well, even though I came in defense for them, for me, I like to be fair, because the budget was there and the 10 million was right in the budget. So I said, hey, if they're going to fund their campaign, That's the money that they're using. But on the country, in addition to that as well, there was before when he was running in 2017. You've heard about the trip to France and the guys that this is not his first time using helicopter. To be honest with you, right? Um, so we know there are people behind him. The Senegalese, wanted to give him a loan or whatever. So we know there could be those people behind him as well.
And
Um,
the
but
Russians are not in the picture anymore because of the war.
the
And
as there was
but
stories
you try
about
that when you're
Russian
done.
being the Russian don't play. I don't want to get into that, but the Russian don't play. If they come back in the picture, they'll probably chase him out of
No, I
Liberia.
talk about
But
relative to the sanction and the war and the sanctions and all that stuff.
yeah,
Yes, yeah.
exactly.
So
So
nobody want to do any business with any Russia right now. Financial business.
exactly. So there's that story as well. So in addition to that 10 million being there, that you also have to look beyond that to say there's a possibility that he might go back to his previous resources, which is the Russian. I don't think he could be able to go back to the
No,
Russian.
some of them used to be to go to Russia.
Yeah,
And
he's
maybe
he's not. Yeah,
the French people.
yeah, exactly. Maybe the French people. So there's that
The
story
guy
as
who
well.
the guy who gave him the guy who gave him a private jet to boost his morale.
There you go. That's what I wanted to talk about. So in addition to that 10 million, there's also additional sources that he could tap into. And this is why the reporting aspect needs to be mandated by that. And anyway, we're not politically mature. And not only are we not politically mature, the people in the opposition too, they're not like you can't just say you campaigning. You gotta elect the things that make the election the democratically process smooth. You got to make sure you hold people feet to the fire to that. If people are not reporting, you require them to do that. If somebody is violating election campaign, you like you file processes, follow the law. So when other people come behind you, they will see that and say this person, even though they didn't win or they won, this is how they win. Or even if they didn't win, they follow the process and they held other people feet to the fire. And if we want to winning is important, but also what is most important is how you win. The steps you took to win. But we kind of the labyrinth program say we take shortcuts on everything.
Mhm.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we're running out of time, so let's jump into the comments so we can wrap up.
Palace President Weah is doing his best developing put that thing on the board. Let's see.
Which one? Who's that? Who said that?
Pale Orita Wureto.
Okay, I think I see that. Okay. So President Weah is doing his best, his best developing the roles, developing a role. He will eventually get to the southeast region.
But I thought his second term will be over if he
And
goes to the second term.
Paula, if you believe that, I got a jet in the southeast region to sell you for 30 million. That's all I gotta say.
Give her, you bad.
Yeah. I'm from the southeast too. That's what I'm telling you. So if you believe that he will build, it's just a matter of time. Then I got
Pale,
a
I'm
jet
also
right.
from the southeast, and I'm even crew. My man
I got
Gabriel, a Gabriel man.
I got a jet in Boninken right now in a hangar waiting for you to buy. We can talk price. So.
But I think that your children town.
All right. So here's another comment from Jackson. I'm just going up the chain. That 66 concession were initiated during the 2005 election. Look at the result. Our country isn't benefiting macroeconomically. The same Jack Jackson again. He said it might not be factual, but a lot of foreign businessmen finance election in Liberia for all kinds of mineral deals.
Yeah. I mean, Jackson is right because I came close to knowing that. So different individuals during the 2017 election would drop, 500,000, $1 million. Yeah, no. Yes, different individuals, especially in the French countries. Now people are going to mostly in the French country, but there's Nigeria there too. There's other Nigeria, businessmen who have money to risk or to put that kind of stuff with the hope that they will get something. So yes, not just the French people in Africa and even Europeans as well. And people used to go to Russia, but now because of the sanction over Russia, Russian stuff like that, people are very careful. But yes, so you're right.
And we have okay, this is Larry. He said a great show, very informative and thought-provoking. And the pilot guy was
But you see Emmanuel Jackson other comment?
It's further up, the derivative.
Down, all the way down.
Pala is laughing at the thing that when we're speaking in Librarian, they will say people doing yama yama. So that's what you're laughing at.
Okay, this one?
No, all the way down.
What does it say? What does it say?
Right there.
Yeah, so Jackson is also talking about Israelis. So different.
Oh, okay, this one. Okay. 7 million from the Israeli CDC funded campaign. Interesting. I don't think I've heard this story. I wish you could elaborate on that. Have you guys heard about this? No.
Hey, I don't know where he coming from with a CDC funded campaign. I know he went to Israel not too long ago. They said he went for religious retreat to discuss.
No, we saw him, looking in the that, what is it? Is that in Jerusalem?
The shadow there. When I come in the social media, the shadow.
Yeah.
That is scan part.
Okay.
The real part.
There was more that happened there.
Jackson talking about.
Yeah. So Emmanuel Jackson again, he said the derivative nature from the U.S. statement about visa restriction, poor quality of economic performance going into election, always possibility of Reagan and mob violence. So I think he was speaking to.
What he's seeing is, it is evident that because of our poor economic performance, we are getting poorer. The disposable income is shrinking. Then, and you find an incumbent going into an election, well, that gives them incentives to rig because they're not going to be as popular anymore.
Yes.
That's what he's saying. That's what that is what we're deriving from those visa restrictions.
Yeah. Good analysis.
Yeah, that's a good way to. That's a good analogy. I mean, that's a good analysis. Yeah. Man, that's brilliant, Jimmy. That's
but guess what?
I think that's how we should look at it.
Jimmy Gabriel, guess what now? Also, to add a little piece to what Eastman said about Jackson's statement, there's also the cloud of, the U.S. people when they're giving a visa to everybody, not just the people who are on visa restriction, but the country as a whole. The worse a country is doing, the less likely the appetite for U.S. to give anybody visa in our country. So this has a ripple effect on the citizens with all these things that are happening in the country.
Yeah.
Because
I just hope that
when you show up to a U.S. consular officer to get a visa, in his mind, you are going to the U.S. not to come back to your country. And this is your country going through economic issues. This is your country going through all these problems. Obviously, historically, anybody that enters the U.S. don't want to come back to a country that's struggling.
Even if you can't play football, you just run away.
You just run away.
The football
you can't manage person you just run away.
I will tell you one little joke. When I came from Ghana to the U.S., and I went to Air Afrique to pick up my ticket. So the guy was explaining the ticket. He said, well, you will go from here, you go to Abidjan, then you go to Dakar, then you go to New York. And on your way back, you would come from New York to Abidjan, then you go to Lagos before you come to Accra. So I said, but why I would go way there? Why will I go way to Lagos before I come to Accra? That guy never answered me. He just looked at me long time. I said, boy, now you coming back here? What's anything wrong with Look at something wrong with you, eh? He never opened his mouth.
You know,
He just look at me long time and say, boy, not something wrong with him, man.
One of my people say, Sonny one of you.
he has a point though. I mean, that's how people look at it. Why are you even coming back here?
But look at what Pajibo is saying. I mean, it's classic. It's like it's just and these elections, I'll tell anybody what Pajibo is saying is gonna go on.
Why the
That's why I told somebody say, that your job business, I'm here for job struggle. I'm supporting somebody for job business. So but he's right. That's in fact it's brewing right now. A struggle for job is brewing right now.
Yeah, and he's right though. Even here, I think I spoke about it. For me, as I said, the place that the Liberia come from is from the bush, so I don't like to beat around the bush. I say what I gotta say. You like it or not, that's your problem. Even here, it's in the diaspora. You see people coalescing around various political party. That is their sole reason. Like they think most people just think you kind of support a candidate because you want job. No, some of us support a candidate because we think this person can do better for the rest of Liberia. And
for the rest of Liberia.
Exactly, for the rest of Liberia.
Creating that in every environment for all of us to try.
Exactly. For what I want to do.
US and go do my lady and come right back.
Exactly.
Or when I retire, I can go back to my country easily and enjoy my late retirement. You know, this kind of stuff. All the young people going back and forth doing their stuff. Yeah.
That's exactly the sole reason. And from a business side, what we want doing there from a business side is it requires that kind of environment to be there. It requires somebody to have that kind of environment. So
you want to do real estate business, you want to do different business, you want to go back and forth, to like what our brothers are doing, brothers and sisters are doing in other African countries, Ghana and other places.
Kenya
and other places. We just need that environment. We just need that person who will create that environment. Then one person just hold the country in hostage for himself, by himself, and everybody must bend down. Everybody must say yes to him. Nobody else can. Yeah.
Anyway, Dr. Piper, you're right.
And based on that comment, let people put the Paula is very busy here. Put her comment there. You are from Southeast. You need to support your brother. Put her comment there.
Hey, you see, that's the kind of way we're thinking, like, bro.
I hope she can understand crew. Let me speak crew to her. Paula, Aju, Omawia. Or did I block? But Mata must not put crying with her. Kunkwana or say when berry. Opa Kunkwana po. Kamboyam Amutura by Sankanuna or they were Mutumbo ete asogida. Ose Kunkwana berry, Odo. Nyetira be Bapowin. Any would do a nyoti Bapowin. Be Kunkwana, Quamunambo. Did I say more crappy or more preppy or more nyotida as yet? Abramuate aura. So what I'm telling Pala, if she understood the crew, is
Juicy final call.
What I'm telling, I say, we had our own man, our own son, our own brother. He speak crew, I must say I speak crew. But right now, this is not about tribe. This is not about region. This is not about county. This is about Liberia. He has proven not to be able to create that environment like we just said for all of us. That's why I say, see a better 20, he ain't able. He did a job for himself, for everybody to bow down to him, for the whole country to serve him. And now we want to the point that our country not going the way it's supposed to be going. So let him move from there. Let somebody else come there. That's what I say.
You say final call.
So now tribe business, that business is about Liberia for all, whether you Grebo, whether you Pele, whether you Mano, whether you whatever, for all to try. So for me, It is not about Southeast business. It's about Liberia.
That'll be all now. Just a final call.
So,
Anyway, let's go to Pivo. That the Pivo comment. Dr. Pivo, I think I read somebody say you retired now, so hopefully we can have you on the focus on Liberia on the marketplace here. Again, congratulations. He said, "How can true journalism and other professional work effectively when people are hungry and cannot afford 3 square meals a day? Poverty is a large extent Poverty, to a large extent, defines many issues and institutions in less developed countries such as ours." I agree. Perhaps someone needs to write on the economics of election. That is it. Maybe you can put out the article, Doc. That would be a great article. Um, do you guys have any comment on this?
they're asking for Jimmy try. He say Niji man. Right, you reverse our Basa. Which one?
Both. Both. I got my mom, 5 people from Basra, and I have my people from Riverside. So
You
both.
proper Niji. You proper Niji. Be. Because coming from Riverside, you get Niji.
Oh, that's why I told you, I said, I need you, man.
Who asking that question? Hey, Labrador, what's
That
all with that with
that's
the travel
really
thing?
No,
that's really.
that's a joke.
Okay. And Doc is busy. He said poverty is no sin but a terrible inconvenience. Our version of democracy is it's transactional. Uh, graft, graft, and corruption related institutions are working because people are hungry. Our democracy is all about election. It's all about election. Immediately after election, we begin to think about about the next election. That is absolutely right. We don't govern. We don't. You know.
Well, Gabriel,
I,
I think we're
yeah,
one hour one.
yeah. What done? I think what that's yeah. That wrap up the comment part
Yeah,
of this.
let
Yeah,
let read the other last comment so we can wrap up.
yeah. So Emmanuel said, I think this is for your people. He said, up to their supporter not to go
Yeah, UP.
out. Yeah, doing
Yeah, that's
CDC
how we're
visit.
talking about. Yeah, the FOIA thing.
Yeah, there there was no violence during we visit. It was it was up supporters time for launch for their launching. Then sedition show up. It was up supporter time for their launching, and then sedition show up.
Yeah, UP. That's the same story I heard
Yeah,
from some
yeah,
independent sources.
yeah. But I think that brings us to the end of these comments and subsequently to the end of the show. So, do you guys have any thoughts on any of the topic we talked about here? Final thoughts. And it could
I
come
think
from
for me to
Yeah,
any.
sum,
I have one little thing. You know, I think Liberian people are always looking for a better existence.
Mm,
You know, they're looking for to be able to do their business, um, send their children to school,
mhm,
have money to go to hospital, have money to put food on the table. Liberians people want a better livelihood. But the message I've been wanting to hear is who's telling the Liberian people this is what we will have to do together so we can improve our lives.
mhm.
Because there's going to have to be a degree of sacrifice. We have to provide for the next generation. And I don't hear that a lot. It's not going to happen. I only hear promises that very difficult to do. We will have a lot of work to do. We Liberians, if we're going to build it, and I think we need to prepare. If somebody was serious, I think that's how they'll be preparing people for it.
Yeah,
But that campaign time now, so everything I just read more.
yeah,
well,
You
well,
know,
Jimmy, you know, you're spot on with, that's our desire, and That is why when I hear about jobs, and I like, but I say to people that yes, if I'm a qualified person, if I'm offered a job that is worth my while, like I've done in the past, I will serve my country.
Mm-hmm.
But my immediate desire is I need a Liberia that the environment is there for all of us to be able to do our 1 2 1 2, right? In the right way, in a legal way, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to, wherever you stay, to be able to grow like our other colleagues in other countries. I would live and work in Ghana for almost 10 years. Where my colleagues have gone now,
Mm.
that's where, when I was in Liberia before I left in 2019, that's where I was heading to. But I had to break. 1980, what we did? 1979, Red Riot. 1980, we were through, we ran away. 1990, we ran away. Or do Kingdom Power, 1985, some people ran away.
Mm.
1990, we ran away. Went back to Liberia. Ellen King, we went away. We start back. We start over. We just running and starting over. We just running and starting over. When there will be stability for us to start this. In the process, we're getting old inside. So
Oh,
so
that's
our
part of
old
it.
people, they already old here, they in the 70s, in the 80s, they can't go. They want to rather tie away America. But that environment is not there. So young people here, they are thriving. Look at people like Gabriel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gabriel want to do their thing like in their own country. So we want that stability that we're here for. So when people Palace talking about what are your brother and thing, no, we just want an environment. So that is why we continue to sing this song. We continue to talk. We continue to talk, and that's the environment we want. And eventually, hopefully, we'll get that during this election. Hopefully, you know.
Yeah.
So
No, I share the same sentiment both of you guys share. This it's it's I not to brag or boast, but there's maybe the only position in the government I can pay me a lot is maybe the vice president or the president. That's so if you if you think I'm trying to can't get any position in the government because I'm supporting a candidate, I think you're out of your mind. There's not a position in any part of the government that can pay me what I'm making. What exactly what you guys said is what we want to do. The reason why some of us are putting a specific candidate is one to make sure that there is a safe country. I don't care who the candidate is, you know, um, just that environment needs to be suitable, just as rest as Kenya, Ghana, Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
It will allow people to, once you have that environment, the economy will pick itself up because people like myself, like you guys, will just go in and do things without caring, no regard, not even care about the government. That's the kind of environment that I think all of us are looking for. But on this the topic that we cover here, I didn't think it was going to speak to me a little bit more. It's more about the campaign financing piece of it. And I keep saying that because if we want to, like, segue into what we are just talking about, if we want to create that kind of environment where election, we don't have to, like Alex was saying, we don't have to get up and run, get up and run, get up and run because of instability, then we need to stop doing the things, making the decisions now that will set that environment so we don't have to end up in that environment where we just get up and run, get up and run, get up and run again. And in the way we can do those things is enforcing the processes, the systems that ensures that those accountability are in place. God forbid we could have a perfect democracy going on for years. All of a sudden, because Liberia is thriving now, people may come from different who were doing any election and start putting heavy money in. This is a great country. They've been doing well for so long. I can go ahead and influence anybody. Why? Because we never set the example from the beginning of making sure we have our campaign financing down to the details. That if Alex is violating it, if I'm in the opposition, I hold Alex accountable to the neck. So the neck will now go to Alex and say, Alex, you need to file your campaign financing. If Jimmy is doing the same thing, we both tell Jimmy to file our complaint to NEC, and then NEC will say, Jimmy, you need to report your campaign financing. If you don't do it, this is what's going to happen to you. We need to build the institutions slowly, even if it's not, granular standpoint, but slowly in the smaller stages to make sure that the other people that will come every election process, there's a little bit of improvement. It may not be big, it might just be an inch of a needle movement, but at least it is setting the example that ensures like a what we call an effective democracy and a growing democracy that can sustain over time. So that's my take on that. Thank you.
All
Any other
right.
comments or thought before we wrap
Well,
up?
yeah, Mr. Sam Wallow said you would get stability when Liberians turn their leaders in for theft, especially those who work within the government and know who is doing it. So we need whistleblower. But right now, I don't think whistleblower. I don't think whistleblower will survive long time.
The whole topic by itself for
That's
another
a whole
2 hours.
topic by itself. There, I agree with you guys. That's a whole topic by itself. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I think that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for watching. As we always like to say on this channel, that we are not, whether you like what we say was, against another party or against another opposition party, or whether you think we were beating down another candidate. At the end of the day, there is one thing that is true, and that we will always be Liberians, right? That's the common denominator. But also, more importantly, what we're trying to do is elevate the conversation that improves the country and makes it a better country for all of us. So we're going to leave you with that song that says we're all Liberians. Whether you like it or not, that's the truth. And that one, you can't deny it. You cannot take partisan decision on that one. It's the fact. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you here next week.
See you
Ciao.
guys.
We all love you.